candidates, thank you very much. Y'all stayed right on time, so we're moving right along in that regard. Now we're going to go to the part of the program now where we've got some specific questions from the audience. And the way this will work is we'll address each of these one question to each of the respective districts. And for this time, your time period will be 1 minute to do a response. And we're going to start now from the opposite end, so we're going to start down with District number 3. Mr. Wright, you're going to get us started on this, and this is the question for Post 3 for each of you. Since you're now running for City Council, what did you do to support Peachtree Corners becoming a city? Mr. Wright.
My earlier statement, you probably heard me quickly reference Peachtree Corners patch. I was asked in the summer by Judy Putnam to start writing a blog about the city, or the potential city, in the position of a pro-city advocate. And I did that. I wrote an article about every week. And for my friends from the old Go side here in the crowd, you probably vividly remember me, because we spent a lot of time talking back and forth. And you also remember that even when we disagreed, I was never disagreeable with you, because you can always learn from people, even when they disagree with you. That's why, as my mother would say, why did God give you 2 ears and 1 mouth, when I would argue with her? And I think that's very true. But again, the people that, if you haven't read the patch, you probably don't know me that well, but I was out there fighting hard for the city on the patch, putting myself out for public criticism. That's what I did. Thank you.
Good evening. I did not take an active role in supporting the Peachtree Corners movement with the Yes campaign. However, as a president of a homeowners association, when Mike Mason came out, it was very important to my community that the city become a reality. And we encouraged that because of annexation by Norcross. We are located just across the street on Maylock Bridge from historic Norcross. And the threat of becoming part of Norcross was very real for us. In fact, they had approached us as a community board about our interest in becoming part of the city of Norcross. We are surrounded by industrial complexes, so it made economic sense to include us. So to me, it was very important that we became part of Peachtree Corners. Was I active on the Yes campaign? No. But do I support the city? Yes. Thank you.
Hi, Scott Ehrlich, Post 3. You know, when I moved here, I wanted to get involved, and I had to track down Mike Mason through his HOA newsletter because we didn't have a real website with any contact information. About a year ago, when we started getting this whole city thing going, Mike and Debbie approached me about starting a website. A few weeks later, we had the whole UPCCA website up with all the information to provide you guys any input about the city, meetings like this. I also took over email distribution for the UPCCA and the city effort. Since I started that, we've expanded our outreach at least 50% in terms of getting people here. In fact, if you received an email from the UPCCA tonight, we're getting tons of annoying emails from the UPCCA, you have people in. Since then, I've also been very involved in getting active in the city, learning the issues, talking with people, expressing ideas, and have been at many, many meetings, meeting with elected officials from Roswell, Johns Creek, Dunwoody, to talk about different ways to prepare the city. But also, after the city happened, the first thing I did was to go to the No Blog and talk to them about the great campaign they ran. I really made it a close election. There's a lot of similar issues that both of us have, and I've reached out to them very carefully. I'm Scott Ehrlich, Post 3.
And this will start with Ms. Bucks, and then we'll go to Mr. Byers, and then Ms. Paulbeck. All right, Post 4, this is your question. What do you think the qualification should be for an individual applying to be the first city manager of Peachtree Corners? Ms. Rocks.
I think first they need to have experience. I think they need to, let me think. They need to have experience, and I think they need to be well-diversed in every way. I think that they need to understand different types of people. And Thank you.
Robert Byers, Post 4. Working with the city managers of both Norcross and Lilburn, I've learned a lot. I learned that a city manager can be the medium that goes between the city council and the citizens. A lot can get done by the city manager. That's why the city council depends so heavily on. But the city council has to make the final decision. My qualifications in an ideal city manager includes somebody that is willing to sit down and listen to you as a citizen for suggestions, potential improvements, and anything that the city could possibly do. I think a city manager should be reliable and should focus on building up the city instead of wasting your money. Thank you. Robert Byers, Post 4.
When I think of a city manager, I think of the person who's going to run the day-to-day operations of the city at the direction of the city council. Those of us on the city council are not going to be experienced in that. We need to find somebody who does have good background in terms of running a city. Preferably somebody who might have experienced work with a startup city would be a great thing to have. I think you need to look to somebody who can work with the city council and also work with community, as Robert stated. They're going to be our buffer because they're the people who are going to be responsible day to day. The other things I look for in a city manager would be the ability to work well with the staff and to work between the staff and city council to help get things done. I think that the need to be able to get things done, I think knowing how to get things done and getting it done well and efficiently and effectively would be one of the most important things to see in a city manager. Thank you. And vote for me.
Our next question will go to Post 5, and for this particular question, we'll start with Mr. Terry, then Mr. Johnson, and then hear from Ms. Christopher. All right, your question is, describe your position on city taxes, and what do you say to those who fear a growing city government?
Is this working? Working. I am a taxpayer. That's all of us are. Hard-earned money. Your hard-earned money, if you look at the pro forma of the budget, okay, the budget of the city, based on the taxes, property taxes, ad valorem, the franchise fees. If you notice on your bills lately, you see little franchise fees showing up. If not, go home and look at them, because they're there. They're being escrowed right now. And those will go into the city once the city does become functioning. But look at that and you'll see. Taxes, folks, we are taxed left, right, and all over the place. So we're all on the same boat with that. The key is going to be the efficiencies. So with those efficiencies, we hire a city manager. So I'm going to segue into that. City manager, this city is set up for the strength of the city manager to run the city. The council just makes the recommendations and sets the plans. Your city manager will be managing that. So that combined together works, the importance of the city manager. Gray Terry, Post 5. Thank you.
Brent Johnson, Post 5 at large. My position on taxes is very simple. When you start a new business, you have to have some money to raise the business. Now, the good thing about this is we have a budget set out. We know what salaries are. We know what our costs are going to be for the start of the city and everything else. We can raise money with 0.001 of taxes to fund the city to get the city started. Then when the franchise fee starts coming in that Gray was talking about, you have business license renewals coming in January. When all that money starts coming in, we can back off the taxes and work about a balanced budget that way, so we don't have to pay any additional taxes. So the city funds itself through franchise taxes, permits, business license, etc. That's my view on taxes, and that's Pretty much the way I think we should run the city is limited as possible, raise just enough money to run the city. Once we get up and running, get the money back to the citizens on their taxes. Thank you.
Lori Christopher, at large, Post 5. My position on taxes is, if you are aware of the city charter, we are totally limited on any taxes that can be levied based on the city charter. To start up the city, like any startup, you need operating capital. What the council has to decide is, where is that operating capital going to come from? There is money set aside, and in the first year, the city will have a major surplus. We won't have that money in our hands. So if we had to go buy groceries for the city, we wouldn't have any. So we have to develop a strategy and a plan to initially fund the operation of the city until the funds start being transferred to us, and then determine through your input how best to spend the city money that we do have. That's my position on taxes.
Our next question will be given to Post 6, and we'll start with Mr. Stickney, then Mr. Leader, Mr. Quick, and Mr. Cobb. And the question is as follows. What is your vision of an ethics policy for our new city council? Mr. Stickney.
Brian Stickney, Post 6. I have like about 6 codes of ethics I have to follow as a lawyer, as a CFP, as a CFA. Obviously, we should have a policy against conflicts, and people should recuse themselves if there's a conflict. We should also go a little bit beyond that, and we're always going to a little bit have a conflict because we're in the community, so we're going to be near the things we're talking about, and that's one of the reasons you have a city, is because we're there. We're going to have to drive by it every single day. So we are going to have to be a little bit patient about that. Code of ethics is pretty simple. There's so many out there. You know, obviously we shouldn't take money, we shouldn't take bribes, we shouldn't engage in things that enrich us. We should just use a lot of common sense. We should also talk things out. If there is something we're concerned about, we should discuss it with the council and bring it out. I think disclosure is one of the key elements in this. And let the council help out deciding if it's a true conflict. Thanks. Brian Stickney, Post 6.
David Leader. I've always held myself to the highest level of ethics, and I expect nothing less from our city. We are a local government. We do not need the gifts that are allowed by the charter. I would never accept anything like that, and hope that my fellow councilmen would not as well. We need to put together everything and look over every idea from a blank perspective, listen to all sides. All zoning, we should consider everybody that's affected. Zoning is not just going to affect one person. You're also going to be impeding on other people's land. You don't want to do that anything less than the most careful. Like I said, orange and white, colors of caution. I'm David Leader. I have the highest ethical standards for myself. I'll keep that for our city too. Thank you so much.
Ware Gratwick. Quick story. I was talking to a friend who had a relative that was involved in another city in the metropolitan Atlanta area that was just starting, and relayed a story to me about when the council formed and the city went out and hired employees, and the employees had a benefit plan. And the city council members learned of the benefit plan, and it looked pretty nice. And a few of them decided that we ought to have access to this as city council people. Into the story, the gentleman that was on this council was vehemently against it. And I would do the same. That is not something that we'll have at our city council if I'm on the council board. Ware Gratwick, Post 5. Thank you.
Hey, Ray Cobb, Experience Day One. My take on ethics, there's quite a bit already kind of captured in the charter that we have, but I think we can go a little bit beyond that in terms of some of the things, just common sense things. For example, the trash contract that we'll eventually have to get into. We really need to include in our contracts that we can't accept gifts. It has to actually be written out and spelled out, because I talked to the trash companies. That's going to be part of it. That's going to be stuck in there. They've already called up some of these guys already about what do we want to do in terms of the trash already. So we need to make sure that that stuff is a part of our policy and what it is we're not going to do. The other thing is we might also want to consider lobbyists. The trash companies all have lobbyists, and those guys are slicker than, they can kind of get around it a little bit, and so we need to figure out what to do with that too. So we might want to also consider having those guys register with us, just so we know who's talking to who, because some of that activity is going on right now.
Post 3, District 3. In this round, we'll start with Mr. Proud, then go to Mr. Ehrlich, and then finish with Mr. Wright. All right, Post 3 candidates, this is your question. How do you plan to be accessible to your constituents if you are elected?
Microphone? David Proud, Post 3. If I'm elected, we'll have a website and a communication email link and phone numbers that I will be accessible to each and every one of you if I'm elected. And I think it's very important that we are accessible as candidates or as council members, because it's not just my fight, it's our fight. It's our city together. So I will be there for you to make sure that your voice is heard on this council. Thank you.
Scott Ehrlich, Post 3. Many things, as Ray alluded to, what we'll need to do will be unexpected, time-consuming, and will have to be dealt with promptly, perhaps personally. I work at home, and I work right here in Peachtree Corners, and I work a flexible schedule. So that means I have the ability to issue with any issues whenever they arise. That means meeting with you anytime you want, taking your emails, phone calls, and getting back to you probably within an hour. I don't sleep, so it's pretty easy to get in touch with me. I'll never forget that I'm working for you and make sure I take care of your business. I've been one that started the Peachtree Corners website to increase accessibility. I've handled emails for the last year plus to increase accessibility. If it's up to me, we would have put every meeting that we have, every city meeting will be broadcast through the internet, and I can actually do this. It's one of my 12 points that if I'm there, I propose that every city meeting we have, which is broadcast through the internet. So you can sit at home and listen to every city meeting, interact with us during the city meetings, ask questions during the city meetings, not after things happen, not after the votes decided. While it's happening, express your opinion. I have a history of doing this. Check out my town hall at MarlonChuscott.com. You'll see how it works. But I have a history of doing this, and I'm the only one I can provide it for you and provide it for you at zero cost to you. Thank you very much.
Alex Wright, Post 3. Something that's interesting about these town halls that there's hundreds of people here all 3 nights. So I think people are very excited, obviously, about this new city. So I think this would be an opportunity to ask you guys what you would want. Obviously, you've got phone, you've got email, you can meet people in person, but there's a lot of community excitement right now. This is an opportunity to say, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to get together? There's a guy, JLO, he said, I think he's over here. He has these things over at Grouchy's every once in a while where he makes himself available. Maybe that's an idea you look at if you're a city councilman. Hey, I'm going to be available once a month at this location. Come and see me, like the little coffee talks. There's lots of different ideas. I don't think we should right off the bat say, well, this is all we're going to do. Put all options on the table and just see what you guys are interested in instead of me saying, hey, this is what we need to do. Thank you. Alex Wright, Post 3.
Question will go to our Post 4 at-large candidates, and then responding to this, we'll start with Mr. Byers, then Ms. Paulbeck, and then Ms. Rooks. Question is as follows. What are your ideas to increase home values in Peachtree Corners over the next few years?
Very good question. Whoever wrote that, very good question. Unfortunately, we've seen our home values drop. I know that one house that was in back of me just went on the public auction for $60,000 from $150,000. That's very disheartening. What we need to do, we need to make sure that we are, again, able to attract young families here with a safe community that shows, that is able to show that we have plenty of businesses, we have good schools, even though the city council doesn't have any control of the schools. We have safe community where your kids can go to school in, businesses where you can shop, play, and just enjoy life here. Attract families, keep our Asian population from leaving. Thank you very much. Robert Byers, Post 4.
You know, the real estate market really is bad. I have neighbors who lived across the street from me. We moved in the same time back in 1999. They sold their house for less than they paid for it. 11 years, 12 years of equity down the tubes. I think one of the things we can do is working with zoning especially is ensure that zoning is appropriate for the areas, for residential areas and for commercial areas. Make certain those buffer zones where residential and commercial come together are zoned properly so that you can ensure that property values will not be impacted by the other areas around there. Those are two of the best things we can do. I think we can market our brand. I think Peachtree Corners is a very valuable brand. I think having the ability to protect ourselves because we have our boundaries, we can control what goes on here, will also go a long way to helping improve our property values over time, especially as the markets increase. So I think there's a good outlook for the future. Thank you.
What are your ideas to increase home values in Peachtree Corners over the next few years?
I do not know. I'm honest, I do not know. I really don't. Thank you.
Let's go now to Post 5. And for answering these questions, we'll start with Mr. Johnson, then Miss Christopher, and then Mr. Terry. All right, question is, what are your plans for waste collection for all residences and all businesses in Peachtree Corners?
My plans. Well, the first thing is, right now we can't change anything because we signed a 3-year contract with the county. So first thing we'd have to do is get with Mike, get our lawyers, look at the current plan, see what's going to cost us to get out of the current plan. It's going to cost us $50,000. We really don't want to go to debt right off the bat. Now, while we have that time, let's look at other cities, other counties, see what they do. Norcross has, they pick up your household waste once a week, recycles, and yard waste twice a week. That cuts down on everything. Recycle trucks, waste trucks, I'll come once, twice a week. Helps the environment, helps everything. Like I said, the good news is we have time. They have an option. Dunwoody has an option. Josh Creek has an option. We need to get together, talk to everybody in the city. What do you want? Fewer trucks, more pickup, bigger recycle bins. What do you guys want to do as a city? And we as a council can develop a plan based on that suits everybody. Thank you.
Lori Christopher at large, Post 5. And what is my plan for trash? As we're all well aware, we signed a 3-year contract. So at this very minute, the best thing we can do about our plans for trash is to do our homework, do the research, work with our partners, find out what's working and what's not working, and get input from you about what you would like as a trash plan. And that's my plan. And evaluate those and the cost benefits, share the information with you, and let's all decide on what the best trash plan is for our community.
Yeah, the trash issue is going to be the challenging issue. If you look at some of the other cities, the trash that they've set up is under an enterprise fund, or the structuring for the accounting of an enterprise fund. So that'll be something the city will at least have to set up, is the enterprise fund to do that. The timing is critical. I think you have potential for litigation and lessons learned from the county. I'd like to see us partnering with the county to have that discussion, get their lessons learned about what went right, what went wrong, and make sure we don't make the same issues, because litigation could take place from that. I had the program as a 2 to 3 year option, and we'll have to wait and see if there's an opt-out provision. Again, that's the reason we would want to hire the city attorney immediately, because if we begin these processes, we're going to need legal guidance and legal advice so that we don't stub our toe and we make it a bigger mess than what it is, because the idea is we're going to save money, and that's the goal. We've got to make sure we do it right and avoid litigation to do so. Okay? Great, Terry, Post 5. Thank you.
Moving on to Post 6, and with this, the responses will start with Mr. Leader, Mr. Gradwick, Mr. Cobb, and then Mr. Stickney. All right, question is, explain your position on code enforcement in zoning.
All right. Well, code enforcement is a 114-page document. We're all going to start with what the county's given us. Unless we have some major reason to do so, we're not going to mess too much with that. Most cities don't. Most cities take the code enforcement as we have. We will look on a case-by-case basis. As far as zoning, I'm very for any zoning that encourages new businesses that are family-friendly and that bring more opportunities for citizens of Peachtree Corners to find jobs and to, again, grow the work, play community. I want you to be able to enjoy yourself. I want you to be safe, and that's what I'm going to do with any zoning questions that come up. Research it case by case. David Leader, Post 6.
Ware Gradwick. Code enforcement first. As a limited service to the city, there are 3 services, as you know. Code enforcement is one of them, and as Post 5 just addressed, trash service is another. To me, code enforcement can be subcontracted out. It can be done in a cost-effective method. As I stated from the beginning, to me, this is about having a local voice in how our community is shaped going forward, and that's all about zoning. I think the plan that Gwinnett County has is a good one. We can do better by focusing on our community here in Peachtree Corners. So from the start, I think there's 2 significant investments where we need to focus. One is a city manager. That city manager needs to be good. The second is a comprehensive plan for zoning so that we can make the changes and adaptations that work for us as a community. Ware Gradwick, Post 5, thank you.
E6, along with me. I'm Ray Cobb, Post 6. Planning and or code enforcement and zoning. You know, that's kind of simple. We're going to adopt some things on day one. And a lot of people probably don't know, too, that we also have an overlay district that covers the majority of this area, too. So we're going to be able to move forward pretty quickly on that. One thing I'd like to bring up is I do have 1 year of experience on the Gwinnett County Planning Commission dealing with this specifically. But real quick, I want to talk about what we can do to improve the city. You know, let's just talk about the gorilla that's in the room. We've got a lot of things that we need to work on in Post 1. I've been going to the T's over at Peachtree Elementary for the last 4 years. That's an IB program, the only one elementary. We need to really partner, whoever of us is elected, with whoever's over in Post 1 and the mayor, to really bring some resources into that area. This is not something that's going to occur at your 5 o'clock meeting. It goes back to what I'm talking about, being able to jump in and get on the phone and do some of these things between the hours of 9 to 5. We got to really shore up Post 1. We really, really do. That's going to help improve home values. Thank you.
Brian Stickney, Post 6. Code enforcement actually is going to be one of the crucial elements in this community. As we've aged, as retail's gone under, as the economy's gone bad, we have a lot of empty space. If that space is allowed to decay, if it's allowed to be cluttered with litter, if the windows go broken, it's going to decay and that spreads. Code enforcement is all about keeping that away from spreading, keeping it isolated, keeping it out of Peachtree Corners. So code enforcement's imperative, fixing those apartments, upgrading them, that's also code enforcement. For zoning, when I look around, what we're missing in zoning is the end of the life cycle planning we have. We have great schools, we have great homes, but where do you go when your kids go to college and you want to downsize? Right now you're stuck leaving town. You go to Dunwoody, you go to Swanee. You have to give up going to where you go to church. You have to change your friends. We need to fix that. We do need to finish that life cycle zoning and put in small, high-quality housing for people who want to stay in this community, but downsize. Thank you. Brian Signey, Post 6.
We'll go back to District 3, and with this, we'll start with Mr. Ehrlich, then Mr. Proud, then Mr. Wright. All right, trick question here, gentlemen. Do you want a tree ordinance? And if so, do you own a dog?
This is tougher than those Jeopardy test questions that I got. Yes, I actually own 4 dogs. Let me start with the easy part. I own 4 dogs. They're pugs. Some of you saw them at the race this week. I do work in pet rescue. Do I want a tree ordinance as to what kind of trees you have? Look, I want to leave you alone, to be honest with you. That's what I'd like to do. I mean, you guys have HOAs. Most of you live in HOAs. So you already have them on your back. If I told you, if you have an HOA and something comes out that we have to deal with, I mean, the HOA is going to have dealt with it way before. If you don't have an HOA, you intentionally moved into a place to not have an HOA so you can do what you want with your property. So the last thing I want to do is be telling you what kind of trees you got to plant. I mean, are you kidding me? This is supposed to be a limited service city, and I'm going to tell you what kind of trees you want to plant. Am I going to come by and clip your flowers if I don't like them too? I mean, this is a limited service city. I want to leave you alone. I tell people my job should be like a good referee in sports. If you don't see me, that means I'm doing my job right. If the last time you see my name is on March 6th when you hopefully vote for me, that means I'm doing my job right, and that means things are going well for you. So vote for the guy with 4 dogs. Chief Scott.
David Proud. I don't have 4 dogs, but I do have 1 dog. It's a Beagle Chihuahua mix, and my wife and I call it a Chiweagle. She's 11 years old, and we really enjoy her. No, on the tree ordinance, I'm with Scott on this one. You know, what you want to do with your property is your business. You know, an HOA, that's the proper kind of covenant restriction that would be in an HOA, that you might have to have 1 tree in your lot. But for the city to come in and have an ordinance that requires you in your older community where, like you said, you chose not to move in your HOA, I mean, you choose not to be in a community with an HOA, to require that you have a tree, that's overstepping. I think the city needs to focus on ordinances and stuff that are related to zombie foreclosures or houses that are empty and things like grass a foot tall, but not this petty little stuff. We'll leave that for HOAs to do a good job with it. Thank you. David Proud, Post 3.
Alex Wright, Post 3. I've been walking neighborhoods the last month or 2, I guess, and one of the common questions I get is, do you want more government? That's a common question. And what I tell people is, you know, I've got someone at home who tells me what to do. I don't need any additional help with that. I'm with Mr. Brown and Mr. Ehrlich. Tree ordinance, I have images of Big Brother. We don't need anything like that. I, unlike my 2 competitors, I do not have any dogs. I have 4 children, which is enough many dogs. We have neighbors. Thank you. Alex Wright, Post 3.
One last question for, all right, we'll do one last question for our next group, which is Post 4. And we'll start with Ms. Albeck, Mr. Byers, and then Ms. Rux. Question. What are your views on residential high-rise construction?
Oh, I got this last week. I think when it comes to residential high-rise, I don't think we need a high-rise. I do think that one way to accommodate Those who need downsized housing would be to put something such as a retirement condominium in an area like a low-rise condominium, maybe 6 to 7 stories, on an area like Sturbridge Square. That way, because we really have limited places to put new housing stock. We're very much built up. So we need to look at ways to accommodate people, and I think a condo-type mid-rise would be a very good way to go. Thank you. Jean Allmeyer.
Robert Byers, Post 4. Yes, this question was asked during the Post 1 forum, and I'll say it, as I said during that night, I'll say it again, I do not believe we need any high-rises, any residential high-rises in the area. I definitely believe that we have enough apartments, we have homes that are, as we said in the last question, that are in foreclosure. We do need to attract individuals here, more people to the community. But at the same time, I don't think we need another high-rise. I think that we should use land that's available for mixed-use purposes. Definitely use it to build up a community. We don't need any eyesores here in this beautiful community that we live in. Thank you. Robert Byers, Post 4.
I think we should have high-rise because there's we don't have anything for the elderly at all if you look. We also need to use land to build for downsized homes because a lot of them are downsizing and their kids move out, and so I think we need to use land for small housing for people that have a $600,000 home and they may not want that anymore, sell it, move downsize. But yes, I do think we need high-rise for the elderly. Something anyway. Thank you.
Folks, what we'll do now is we'll begin our wrap-up procedures, and in essence, encourage all of you that have any additional questions to stick around. Candidates will be here, be able to talk with you and answer your questions more fully. Candidates, there's some really excellent questions, and for those of you that submitted questions, thank you so much. What I'm going to do with the questions is I'll turn those over to Ms. Shook, and I really encourage all the candidates to look at all the ones that came in. This is what your constituents are most concerned about, and they're absolutely excellent in that regard. So we'll have a meet and greet over the next 30 minutes or so, and folks, when it comes to government works best when citizens participate. Isn't this a wonderful story? Have a round of applause for our